Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Friedman, and our next guest needs no introduction. He's our ace reporter with a Marc Z Moment. Welcome to the show today, Marc.
Thanks, John. Great to be here as always.
So we're always talking about what's going on in the world of employment and recruiting, and the market's changing rapidly week to week, day to day, and we're in that cyclical time of year when there's a lot of recent grads who are either flooding the market or coming into the market. What's on your mind today? What do you see? What kind of guidance can we give people?
Well, there's some very sharp candidates out there in the candidate pool that are graduating from colleges or certain programs that could be very helpful to employers. But this is the time that what a lot of employers are doing is they're having a big screening process. So unlike when we talk about the senior positions, John, where there's usually a quick roadmap in terms of the hiring process from first interviews, the next interviews, the pre-screening, and then come to a decision. A lot of time, the process is for recent grads. Let's have a certain pool of people and meet a large contrast of candidates before making a decision. Because when you're talking about recent grads, it's usually more generic. The experience level is usually the same. It doesn't stand out from one candidate to another. Now, some cases it does because the candidate maybe has internships or has gained experience where they have particular skill sets developed or gained experience in a particular area that a company or law firm focuses on. But for the most part, you're talking about candidates that are all on the same playing field, and employers are competing against other employers for that same pool, but there is a large group of candidates out there in the junior space.
And has that tended to, I would imagine, elongate the cycle, perhaps for candidates, create additional anxiety? Hey, I had an interview with them, but they're not telling me anything, and it's been, weeks. It seems as though that's one of the challenges that we're facing is it's hyper competitive, and so I think the way I see it, employers don't want to make that decision quickly because they want to see who else is out there and see what other opportunities they have, and so it creates perhaps delays in the decision making process, which is not great for anybody, right?
Right,
To be in that waiting game.
right.
So what kind of advice can you give to candidates? I mean, how obviously somebody is yourself who is, I guess, a disinterested party from the perspective of, you're not the one getting hired, can perhaps go back to a client and ask them what's going on to be able to at least give some insight to a candidate. Are we in a place where that's appropriate if you're a candidate to ask those types of questions? Where am I? Where do I fit in? What's the length of time do you anticipate and is that looked upon favorably when a candidate does that?
First of all, those are all good questions that a candidate absolutely should ask. Can you tell me the steps in the hiring process? When do you think you'll have a final decision? And when can I expect to hear back from you, particularly after the first interview, in terms of my status? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that employers definitely are looking at candidates that have background that will be very apropos for certain positions. So, for example, if you're a junior candidate, you're coming out recent grad, but you've gained some really relevant experience. You want to accentuate that experience so the firm or company or organization can focus on that, because a lot of times they're using a software or a program that's going to identify certain levels of experience, even for people that are right out of school. So they're looking for, AKA, when I say they, meaning employers, are looking for distinguishing factors that can help them make a decision whether to bring a candidate in or not. And then after that, it's the right personality, the right characteristics, and some relevant background that would be good with the team. So you should definitely, as a candidate, make sure you're focusing on certain areas that you're qualified for and will give you a leg up on your competition. Just sending a resume out today, because it's so easy to do on the internet, to 200 places is not the answer. You want to be strategic. You want to be focused on your areas of interest, any experience, any education, any activities that really help promote your background that could be good for a role.
So, I think the age-old advice stands here is try and do something to be able to connect to that hiring manager, hiring person. But it's so difficult, as we've talked about in the past, with, screening technologies and play, a lot of the personal touch has been taken out of it, or the ability to have the personal touch has been
Correct.
taken out of it. How do you navigate through that? Because it seems to me that, I'm just thinking as a, recent college graduate or any person applying for a job. You put the application in based on how the hiring company has determined, whether it's via email or a portal or a submission, whatever that may be. And then it becomes a waiting game. And, you hear so many different pieces of advice, squeaky wheel, be patient and wait, sort of opposing views. So how's a candidate to know what the right answer is?
Well, the first of all, the best answer is network. So, for example, obviously, you're going to send your resume in for an opportunity that hopefully you have some relevant background and skill set for, but also network in that space. So, if you know or know people that are in that space that you're interested in, make sure to reach out and have informational meetings with people that are maybe at the companies or organizations you're interested in that might be able to give you insight or give you a leg up on other candidates that don't necessarily have that in with that organization. So networking or people that know these organizations that if you since you have the background and skill set, you should be considered for a position. But the next thing I would advise is having a strong cover letter to include when you send a resume. What a lot of people do is they just send their resume around and blast it. And I'm saying be a little bit more strategic, have a cover letter, focus on what your skill set, what experience are you capitalizing on that's going to help you do a good job at that organization, company, or firm where
And,
you can contribute
and I
immediately in
would
some way.
I would
That's
just
what,
I would add to that, Mark, that really tailored and specific to it because you and I have probably read so many applications for positions that are so generic. It's quite obvious that somebody is really just buckshot approach, firing everywhere and not taking the time.
right.
We've talked about this many times. The job application process is a full-time job, and if you're out playing and dedicating 10 minutes a day to it, it's you're not taking it very seriously.
Right, right. So it's all being strategic and being able to really identify specific opportunities where your background and skill set are going to be apropos for the opportunity, you know?
And making sure to drive those connections wherever possible
Right.
for either a warm introduction and or somebody to reach out. Always advantageous for somebody inside the company to reach out and say, "Hey, did you see so and so's application? I know them. They're a great person or a smart person or a hard worker or whatever those attributes are."
Correct. Correct.
Uh,
Those are networking abilities that's going to really help give you a leg up, but at the same time, you want to accentuate the skills and experiences going to help you stand out, you know?
Fantastic. As always, Mark, this has been wonderful. If people want to reach out to you, talk more about their job search process and or opportunities, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Well, John, first of all, Google our wonderful radio entrepreneurs website, or go to the website, radioentrepreneurs.com. Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C and the letter Z, marczlegal.com, MarcZlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
Fantastic. It's been a Marc Z moment with Marc Zwetchko. Always a pleasure. President of Marc Z Legal Staffing. Always a pleasure to have you on Radio Entrepreneurs, and we'll be right
Thank you,
back
John.
with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.